here. It's autofocus. It's got a placeholder. Can't submit without putting anything in there. But right now, our actual list of messages is just a local variable inside message list. It probably ought to be in state somewhere. So let's decide which component we want to add it to. The list of messages needs to live in the state of some component, but we have to figure out which component that is. So it has to be, we have to think about every component that needs access to that array and realize that any place that needs access to it either has to be the one where the state lives or it has to be accessible through props. So you have to be able to pass it down to each component that needs it. So where should we put messages? Which component's state should that live in? So which components need it? Which components need access to that array? Yep. Message list definitely needs it, right? That's where we loop over it. The form. Because ultimately, we're going to submit that form and it's going to add something to the list, right? So if it's needed in both of those places, the state needs to be at least high as what? Chat, right? So it can't be passed down to both message list and message form unless it's in chat. So chat needs state. If it didn't, yes, we can make it a function. But it does. So chat now needs some state. So let's throw a constructor in here. And anytime we have a constructor in a React component, we always have to call super. So we have to call the constructor from React component. Then we can initialize our state. So this dot state equals an object. And inside that object, I'll have a key of messages, and that's where that array will live. So in message list, I'm just going to cut this thing from my opening bracket to my closing bracket. Just cut that out of there. And paste it here. So this is now this.state.messages inside chat. Ultimately, it'll come from somewhere else. It'll come from a database or something. But for right now, we're just hard-coding a couple messages in here. So if it's inside chat's state, we still need it inside message list, right? Right now, we're going to explode. Right? Inside message list, I'm going to get messages as not defined because I took it out. So how's it going to end up in message list? As a prop. That's right. If you have data in one component, you need it in another, your only option, as far as we know, is to pass it as a prop. So here's message list. We need a list of messages in there. So how about we have a prop called messages? What do we set it to? What's its value? This.state.messages, right? Indeed. This.state.messages. So how do I need to change message list? My problem is messages is not defined on live 9 right here, messages. So how do I need to change that? Good guess. I don't have state in this component. It was state in the other component, but now it's a prop. So if this were a class, it would be this.props.messages. Instead, the props come in as an argument because this component's a function, not a class, right? So the props are going to be an argument passed in. We said the first day we talked about React that props are like arguments to your component. Sometimes they are literally an argument to your component because the entire component's a function. Yeah.
Where's MSG declared?
Right here. It's an argument inside this arrow function. Right, so this is just a function, an anonymous function here. And we named the argument whatever we wanted. So we need an MSG. So that's just like putting inside parentheses. So our props come in as an argument here. So instead of messages, it is props.messages, right? Up in chat, that's this.state.messages, but we pass it down as a prop called messages. So in message list, that is props.messages. And it's back. It works again. So here's chat after I've made that change. And here's message list after I made the change. We just changed 2 lines there. All we changed in message list was we put props inside parentheses, and we changed messages to props.messages. Look at React Dev Tools. Keep in mind that these are here if you ever have a problem. If they're not showing up for some reason, always check to see if the props are what you think they are. So let's look at message list. Here's message list. I have a prop called messages, and there it is. It has 2 messages in it. If I look at the chat component, I see no props, but I see state, and I've got this messages array. So keep in mind if a component isn't acting the way you expect it to, you can always see what its props and state are by using the DevTools here. And don't forget that you can search through that. You don't have to click through the tree. You can always search for the one you're looking for. Cool. So add messages to chat's state.